Pam Jasinkas, and I am currently the chairman of the Historical West Height Neighborhood Association. Well, they would include the homes tour, which we just completed. Now, I was not actively involved in that, but as chairman, I was informed about all of it. We had other people who did that. We have ongoing landscape and common areas improvement, a small group of people who tend to take care of that. We decorate the neighborhood for the holiday, and that's the Get Her Done Committee, which is overseen by a Get Her Done kind of guy. Over the past few years, we've built a very good relationship with St. Paul's Episcopal Church. We do have another church that is just on the edge of our neighborhood that we need to build a relationship, which we have not done to this point, but it is a goal that's coming. Let's see, what else have we done? A little bit of infrastructure work. We have some guys in the neighborhood who'll go and do little repairs, especially in the common areas, rebuild a bench, fix a sign. They take care of the electrical work on the roundabouts. We have somebody who oversees planting, reseeding, things like that. So a small group of people who are constantly involved in a little bit of work all over the area. And we tend to write, we have a grant writer who's also our treasurer. He is currently involved in writing a grant that's a metro-wide type of operation, and then he works with livable neighborhoods to continue funding the common areas work. We had a 100-year celebration last October, that would be a little over a year ago, and to celebrate the development of that neighborhood, which is a historical neighborhood. It is on the National Register. It's one of the very first to be developed west of the Mississippi. And it was conceived as an area that would have individual architects, park areas, different kinds of styles of homes that were popular or rising at that time. For example, the plains look, the prairie look was one of the areas of architectural interest. And that area was developed by Jesse Hoyle and his company. He has a street named after him there, and had contracted one of the more well-known houses in the area. He happens to be my great-great-uncle, but that had absolutely nothing to do with my moving there. I never knew him. He was an uncle to my grandfather, and so it's been a long time ago. The community itself, what we call the Historical West Height community, would be State Avenue to about 25th Street. At 25th Street actually would be where Washington Boulevard curves in, 18th Street, and then over to Wood Avenue. That is all of, well, there's a caveat here. That is West Height in general, and it has had 3 building phases. The big boulevard area would have been sort of the first area. There is some area of West Height that is on the other side of State Avenue. That's not well known, but it actually was part of the original West Height development and planning, and that would be south of State Avenue going down into the area near Wyandotte High School. So, as far as the association is concerned, everyone who lives within those boundaries is considered a member of the West Height Association. That being said, we have some members who have been there a long time and their families before them. We have new families. We have families who've maybe been there for a generation and raised their children. At one time, it was considered a very exclusive neighborhood. And to some extent, it still is because of the beautiful homes. But the people who live there now are not necessarily the hoi and the polloi, as much as they are people who are interested in the architecture and the restoration of the older homes. That would be true in my case, my husband's case. he grew up in Kansas City, Kansas, and always knew the area. And we had lived near there, then bought a home in there and restored it, a larger home than we had originally had. So there's a lot of interest in the restoration of the architecture as opposed to living there because it's exclusive or anything. And it's becoming a very diverse neighborhood in terms of age, race, culture, and so on, which is for the most part a positive thing. And as time goes by, it becomes more of a positive thing as people begin to get to know their neighbors and share social events and so on. I think there are two sets of goals, maybe even a little more than that. There is a group of people within the neighborhood who are very interested in maintaining the architectural integrity, let's say, and the historical integrity. There is another group who probably would include my husband and myself, who are interested in maintaining the quality of the neighborhood as opposed to being too overly concerned with the historical restoration. And I feel that the way a neighborhood looks and when you go into it, how it makes you feel is as important as whether somebody restored their house with exactly the correct material. So we have a couple of little factions there. Recently we had a little kerfuffle over that. That has settled down now, I think so. Other goals, I would say, it's hard to define. We have a lot of things going on at the church, for example, that kind of drift into the neighborhood or the neighborhood takes part in. For example, there's a lot of outreach with St. Paul's into the community and the care of the poor community in the outlying areas. We have classes down there. We meet there for our neighborhood meetings. And I would say in general the families coming in are interested in the caretaking of the homes they're coming into. Some of them probably aren't that aware of the historical background. That being said, there's several houses in the neighborhood that are actually on the National Register because of their architectural importance. So, other goals, I would say, would be the maintenance of the common areas, making sure the neighborhood is looking good, that the houses are being maintained, and of course safety. Safety is always a goal. And it's a pretty safe area, actually. And we have a wonderful relationship with the community policing group. So. The neighborhood has stayed pretty stable and inviting when you see it. The people there in general are friendly. There's a core of people there who kind of keep that going. A particular family or two, very welcoming, open to being involved in things. And the history of the neighborhood goes back quite a ways. You still have families there whose parents and grandparents owned homes there, but you also have quite a few new people, new families, different backgrounds and so on, which over time has, I think, enhanced the relationships in the neighborhood. You have two things going on there. Sometimes when you get diverse groups in, they'll tend to kind of hold together and not become part of the community, but then you will have another group that will spread out and diversify. And we have some people who've been in the neighborhood a long time, very good at pulling those people out, getting them involved in things, finding out what their skills are, maybe getting them to help with a project around the area, something like that. I'm concerned about the infrastructure. We have deteriorating curbs and sidewalks, which can be a safety issue, but also it's an aesthetic issue. And as I had said earlier, the way a neighborhood presents itself has a lot to do with people who will move in and be good neighbors in terms of taking care of their homes, taking care of their property. I think there is some concern, as always, about safety, and I think one of the main crimes we have in the area, and in terms of the whole concept, is probably not a big thing, but we do have some vandalism, and that happens on the main streets more so than, say, back into the neighborhood a little bit. There's always concern about the neighbor who just doesn't take care of their home and doesn't take care of their property, and people get excited about their property values or of how things look. I think that's one of the big concerns with people in general as neighbors. What is my street like? Who are my neighbors? Are they being good neighbors? Are they taking care of their property? Are they obeying the laws? That kind of thing. A concern on a personal level probably would be maintaining the homes in terms of how expensive it becomes to deal with older houses. We have elderly neighbors who have had to have help or be encouraged or get their families involved to take care of their homes. And those homes present some problems. We've never done anything easy, for example, at our house. When you start a project, you know something is going to happen that is crazy, or something isn't going to work right. Because they are 100 years old. Ours is right at 100, and we were one of the first homes built in the area. So, that kind of thing. I think I personally am not too concerned about, say, crime rates. That is just something that isn't on my radar right at the top. So. We have, first of all, a newsletter. The newsletter comes out approximately once a month, but not always. But it will always come out prior to what we call a general meeting of the membership. The newsletter has changed over time, and my husband currently actually does the newsletter, and he has turned it into pertinent information. This is what you need to know about this. This is how you take care of this. This is who you call if your trash doesn't get picked up. Here are all the numbers you need of the board, the community police, and so on. And then in addition to that, we keep a file of pertinent information that we might put in there from time to time. One of the articles that we're going to put in soon will be about the federal marshals. I went to a seminar, took notes about the function of the federal marshals, learned a lot of things I did not know, and then to give people some education about that. We have a nice relationship with livable neighborhoods, and we use things they share to put in our newsletter if we think the neighbors need to know that. That's one thing. We have a newsletter. We have general meetings every other month. They are on a Wednesday evening. We have a brief social hour, bring a treat kind of thing, and then we try to have a program that shares some sort of interesting information with the community. For example, our last general meeting, Richard Maybon came and he talked about some environmental concerns. Prior to that, we had the principal of Wyandotte High School come in and talk about all the changes in curriculum and the schools within schools that no one knew much about at all, and it was very impressive, very interesting. So that's how we do our general meeting, and then we have what I call a broadcast email that is run by another member of the neighborhood, and when there is important information to go out, I might call him, some other member of the board might call him, or a neighbor, and say, hey, could you put out a general email about this so as many people as possible can get that information. Now, all that being said, this takes the cooperation of both the people in the neighborhood and what we call our block captains to get those email addresses in, to get those phone numbers in, whatever you need, and that's an ongoing battle. So that's another issue entirely, getting people to buy into the whole idea of communication and being a neighbor that you can reach. So. One thing we need, and we have had some communication with the GQ, or not, excuse me, the United Government, and in particular our two representatives, both Ms. Bynum and then Mr. Johnson, Reverend Johnson. And we have a park there. It's called West Pike Park, fairly good size. It needs some new curbing. It would be wonderful to have a walking trail there, sidewalks. There has been some improvement made there by the UG, and they have made some inquiries as to what else we might like. So hopefully that's going to continue to develop. Also, we have a lot of broken curbs, things that need to be repaired and fixed up. We have a few sidewalks that are in need of repair for safety as much as anything. Things that have been uprooted somewhat by, say, old trees and broken cement and things like that. So those are the two concerns that I would express as far as what the UG might be able to do for us. A few years ago, they helped us develop roundabouts that are gorgeous to control traffic. That did increase the taxes for people on the main boulevard there, but it was a lovely addition to the area, and it has helped solve some traffic. We used to have a speedway coming through the neighborhood on the larger boulevard that goes through there. It was an expensive improvement, but I think it has really enhanced the area. So. Well, we've had a lot of fun. We raised our daughter there, who is now an adult and married and has her own life in North Carolina. And we had good times. It was just, we met a lot of neighbors, we made friends, lasting relationships in some cases. I don't know that I could point out just one specific event, but a lot of fun. The home tours, some of the pre-parties to the home tours, and as time goes by, just getting to meet people and being part of what goes on there rather than just going in your house, closing the door, and turning off the porch light. So being involved, I guess, getting to know also the people at St. Paul's. It's not our particular parish or church, but we have a wonderful relationship with the people down there, ongoing and supportive of the neighborhood. So.